My husband and his mother kicked me out at 3 a.m. The buzz of my phone jolted me awake. 3:17 a.m. Michael's name flashed on the screen, but it wasn't a call. My stomach lurched as I swiped to unlock it. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have looked. God, Mem, last night was incredible. Can't wait to taste you again. My hands trembled as I scrolled through message after message, each one more explicit than the last. Photos, videos, promises of secret rendezvous. How long had this been going on? I glanced at Michael, snoring softly beside me, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated in our bedroom. 20 years of marriage reduced to ashes in my hands. Mom? Abby's voice startled me. I looked up to see my daughter standing in the doorway, her brow furrowed with concern. What's wrong? I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. How could I tell my 17-year-old that her father was a cheating bastard? Abby crossed the room and sat on the edge of the bed. She took one look at the phone in my hand. An understanding dawned in her eyes. "Oh, Mom," she whispered, wrapping her arms around me. I buried my face in her shoulder, trying to muffle my sobs. Michael stirred beside us, and I froze. "Jennifer," he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. "What's going on?" I pulled away from Abby and turned to face him. Fury replaced my shock. "Who's Olivia?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. Michael's eyes widened, and for a moment he looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then his expression hardened. "What are you talking about?" I thrust the phone in his face. "Don't lie to me, Michael. I've seen everything." He snatched the phone from my hand, his face turning an ugly shade of red. "You had no right to go through my personal messages." "Personal messages?" I laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call sexting your mistress?" "Mom, Dad, please," Abby pleaded, her voice trembling. Michael's gaze snapped to our daughter, as if noticing her presence for the first time. "Abby, go to your room. This doesn't concern you." "Like hell it doesn't." I spat. She deserves to know what kind of man her father really is. "Jennifer, you're being hysterical," Michael said, his tone patronizing. "Let's discuss this in the morning when you've calmed down." I leaped out of bed, my whole body shaking with rage. "Calm down? You want me to calm down after I've just discovered you've been screwing some woman behind my back?" "Mom's right, Dad," Abby said, her voice stronger now. "You can't just brush this off." Michael's face contorted with anger. I said, "Go to your room, Abby. This is between your mother and me." "No, it's not," I said, grabbing my robe from the chair. "This affects all of us." "How long, Michael? How long have you been lying to us?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "It's not what you think, Jennifer. Olivia's just a friend." "A friend you can't wait to taste again?" I shot back, disgust dripping from every word. The sound of the front door opening downstairs made us all freeze. Heavy footsteps echoed through the house, followed by a shrill voice that made my blood run cold. "William? Jennifer? Is everything all right up there?" Helen. Of course, Michael's mother would choose this moment to make an appearance. "Perfect. Just what we need right now," I muttered. Michael's eyes darted between me and the bedroom door. Panic was written all over his face. "Mom, everything's fine," he called out. "Go back to bed." But Helen's footsteps were already on the stairs. I turned to Abby, who looked as trapped as I felt. "Well," I said, squaring my shoulders, "shall we go downstairs and give dear Helen the show of her life?" As I moved towards the door, Michael grabbed my arm. "Jennifer, please," he hissed. "Let's not do this now." I yanked my arm free, fixing him with a glare that could have melted steel. "Oh, we're doing this now, Michael. And when we're done, you can explain to your mother why you'll be sleeping on the couch for the foreseeable future." With that, I flung open the bedroom door, ready to face whatever storm was coming. One thing was certain. By morning, nothing in this house would ever be the same again. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows, mocking the darkness that had settled over our home. I clutched my coffee mug, the warmth doing little to thaw the ice in my veins. Across the table, Helen's lips were pursed in a thin line of disapproval. "Really, Jennifer," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "I can't believe you'd air your dirty laundry like that. What will the neighbors think?" I bit back a bitter laugh. "I'm sorry, Helen. Next time my husband cheats on me, I'll be sure to do it quietly." Helen's eyes narrowed. "Don't be dramatic. William made a mistake, but that's no reason to throw away 20 years of marriage." "A mistake?" I echoed, incredulous. "That what we're calling it now?" Before Helen could respond, Michael shuffled into the kitchen, looking like he'd aged a decade overnight. "Mom, please," he mumbled. "This isn't helping." I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "You know what? You two can sit here and rationalize all you want. I'm done." As I turned to leave, Helen's voice stopped me cold. "You walk out that door, Jennifer, and you'll regret it. Who do you think you are without this family?" I spun around, fury coursing through my veins. "I am Jennifer Godin Thompson, and I don't need you or your inson to define me." "Mom," Abby's voice came from the doorway, her eyes wide with concern. I softened immediately. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean for you to hear that." Helen seized the opportunity. "See what you're doing to your daughter? This behavior is unacceptable." "What's unacceptable," Abby said, her voice steady, "is how you're treating my mom right now." Michael finally seemed to find his voice. "Abby, stay out of this. It's complicated, adult stuff." "I'm not a child, Dad," Abby shot back. "And what you did isn't complicated. It's wrong." I felt a surge of pride for my daughter, even as my heart broke for the innocence she'd lost overnight. "That's enough," Helen snapped. "William, control your family." Michael looked torn, his gaze darting between his mother and us. "Jennifer, can we just talk about this privately?" I shook my head. "There's nothing to talk about, Michael. You made your choice." "What choice?" He exploded. It was just a fling. It didn't mean anything. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. I felt something inside me shatter. "It meant something to me," I whispered. "It meant everything." Abby moved to my side, wrapping an arm around my waist. "Come on, Mom. Let's get out of here for a while." As we turned to leave, Helen's voice rang out once more. "If you walk away now, don't expect to come back to open arms. You made your bed, Jennifer. Now lie in it." I paused at the doorway, looking back at the woman who had tormented me for years and the man I'd once loved more than life itself. "No, Helen," I said quietly. "I think I'll make a new bed. One without lies and betrayal." With that, Abby and I walked out, leaving Michael and Helen sputtering behind us as we climbed into my car. I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. "Where are we going, Abby?" she asked. I started the engine, my hands shaking slightly. "I don't know, honey, but anywhere's better than here." As we pulled out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of Michael in the rearview mirror, standing on the porch with a lost expression. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered the messages, the lies, the years of subtle put-downs and emotional manipulation. "Mom," Abby's voice pulled me back to the present. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath. realizing that for the first time in years, I could answer that question honestly. No, sweetie, I'm not okay, but I think I will be. As we drove away from the only life I'd known for 2 decades, I felt a flicker of hope. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I was done being Michael and Helen's doormat. It was time to reclaim my life, no matter the cost. The neon sign of the Starlight Motel flickered weakly as I pulled into the parking lot. It wasn't much, but it would do for now. Abby and I had been driving for hours, putting as much distance as possible between us and the wreckage of our old life. "Mom, are you sure about this?" Abby asked as we lugged our hastily packed bags into the dingy room. I sighed, sinking onto the creaky bed. "Honestly, I'm not sure about anything right now." Abby sat beside me, her eyes wide beyond her 17 years. "We can't stay here forever, you know." "I know, honey. I need some time to think." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Michael's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call, my finger hovering over the block button. "You should talk to him," Abby said softly. I looked at her, surprised. "You're defending him now?" She shook her head. "No way. What he did was awful, but you need to figure out what you want to do next. Running away isn't a long-term solution." Sometimes I forgot how perceptive my daughter could be. "When did you get so smart?" I asked, managing a weak smile. "Must be all those vegetables you made me eat," she quipped, nudging my shoulder. We spent the next hour talking, really talking, in a way we hadn't in years. Abby listened as I poured out my fears, my anger, my uncertainty about the future. And then she did something that shocked me to my core. "Mom," she said, her voice steady, "I think you should leave Dad for good." I stared at her, stunned. "Abby, that's a big decision. Are you sure you know what you're saying?" She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "I've seen how he treats you, how Grandma Helen belittles you. You deserve better. Mom, we both do." In that moment, looking at my brave, beautiful daughter, something shifted inside me. The fog of indecision lifted, replaced by a clarity I hadn't felt in years. "You're right," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "We do deserve better." Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Michael. "Jennifer, please come home. We can work this out. I love you." I showed the message to Abby, who scoffed. "Yeah, right. He loves you so much. He cheated on you." I nodded, feeling a surge of resolve. "You know what? I'm done being the dutiful wife who puts up with everything. It's time to take control of our lives." Abby's eyes lit up. "So what's the plan?" I thought for a moment, then smiled. "First, we call your Uncle Daniel. He's a lawyer, remember? He can help us figure out our options." As I dialed Daniel's number, a weight lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking charge of my own destiny. Daniel answered on the second ring. "Jennifer, is everything okay?" "Not really," I said, my voice steady, "but it will be. I need your help, Daniel. I'm leaving Michael." There was a pause, then Daniel's voice came back, filled with determination. "Tell me everything. I'm here for you, sis." As I recounted the events of the past day, I felt a strange mix of sadness and excitement. This wasn't how I'd imagined my life would turn out, but maybe, just maybe, it could be better than I'd ever dreamed. Abby squeezed my hand as I talked, her presence a constant reminder of why I was doing this. We were in this together, mother and daughter against the world. When I hung up, Abby looked at me expectantly. "Well?" I took a deep breath. "Well, it's not going to be easy, but Daniel thinks we have a strong case. He's going to start the paperwork tomorrow. Abby hugged me fiercely. I'm proud of you, Mom. As we settled in for the night, my phone buzzed one last time. Another message from Michael. If you don't come home now, don't bother coming back at all. You'll regret this, Jennifer. I showed Abby the message, my hand shaking slightly. She looked at me, her jaw set. Are you okay? I deleted the message, then blocked Michael's number. You know what? I think I finally am. The sterile smell of the hospital corridor made my stomach churn as I waited for the doctor. It had been 2 weeks since Abby and I left Michael, and life had been a whirlwind of lawyer meetings and apartment hunting. I hadn't expected to add a mammogram to that list. Mrs. Thompson, the doctor's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Her face was unreadable as she gestured for me to follow her into her office. I sat down, my heart pounding. Is everything okay? She took a deep breath, and I knew before she spoke that it wasn't good news. I'm afraid we found something concerning your results. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as she explained about the small mass they discovered, the need for a biopsy, the possibility of. I couldn't even think the word. Cancer? I whispered, my voice barely audible. She nodded solemnly. It's still early, Mrs. Thompson. If it is cancer, we've caught it at an early stage, but we need to move quickly. I left the hospital in a daze, my mind reeling. How was I supposed to handle this on top of everything else? As if on autopilot, I found myself driving to Daniel's office. My brother took one look at my face and ushered me inside. Jennifer, what's wrong? I collapsed into a chair, the words tumbling out between sobs. Daniel listened, his face growing more concerned with each passing moment. Oh, Jennifer, he said softly, pulling me into a hug. We'll get through this, I promise. As I calmed down, a new worry surfaced. Daniel, what about the divorce? If I'm sick? If I can't work? He squeezed my hand. Don't worry about that now. We'll figure it out. But I couldn't stop worrying. The thought of being dependent on Michael again made me feel physically ill. When I got home, Abby was waiting, her face anxious. Mom, what did the doctor say? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Honey, we need to talk. Telling Abby was the hardest thing I'd ever done. She listened, her eyes wide with fear, as I explained about the potential diagnosis and the upcoming biopsy. But you're going to be okay, right? She asked, her voice small. I pulled her close, wishing I could promise her that everything would be fine. I'm going to fight like hell, sweetie. That's all I know for sure. That night, as Abby slept, I sat at our tiny kitchen table, staring at my phone. Michael's number glared at me from the screen. Did he deserve to know? Would he even care? Before I could decide, a text from an unknown number popped up. I heard about your diagnosis. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. If there's anything I can do. Olivia. I stared at the message, a mix of emotions churning inside me. How dare she? How did she even know? Then it hit me. Michael knew. He knew, and instead of reaching out himself, he'd sent his mistress to do his dirty work. In that moment, something inside me hardened. I was done being the victim, done letting Michael and his actions control my life. I picked up the phone and dialed Daniel's number. Jennifer, is everything okay? He answered, concern evident in his voice. I want to file for divorce, I said, my voice steady. And I want everything I'm entitled to. Every last penny. There was a pause, then Daniel spoke. Are you sure about this with your health? I'm sure, I interrupted. I'm going to beat this cancer, Daniel, and when I do, I want to start my new life, free from Michael's shadow. As I hung up, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The road ahead would be hard, filled with treatments and legal battles, but for the first time in years, I felt truly in control of my destiny. I looked at the closed door of Abby's room, thinking of my brave, beautiful daughter. She deserved a mother who was strong, who fought for what was right, and that's exactly what I intended to be. Come hell or high water, cancer or divorce courts, I was going to win this fight. For Abby, for myself, for the life we deserved. The chemo drip ticked steadily beside me, a grim reminder of the battle raging inside my body. I'd been here for hours, the harsh chemicals seeping into my veins, promising to kill the cancer but taking a part of me with it. "Mom," Abby's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She sat beside me, her face a mix of concern and determination. "I've been thinking." I tried to smile, but it felt more like a grimace. "What about, sweetie?" She took a deep breath. "I want to move back in with Dad." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? Why?" Abby's eyes filled with tears. "Someone needs to keep an eye on him and Grandma Helen. They're not handling things well." I wanted to scream, to tell her she was being ridiculous, but the look in her eyes stopped me. My brave, wise daughter was trying to fight this battle on both fronts. Before I could respond, a commotion at the door caught our attention. Michael burst in, his face a storm of emotions. "What the hell, Jennifer?" he snarled. "You're going through chemo, and you didn't think to tell me." I felt a surge of anger, momentarily drowning out the constant nausea. "Why would I? You made it clear you didn't care about me anymore." Michael's face contorted. "That's not. I never." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every movement. "Damn it, Jennifer, I still care about you." "You have a funny way of showing it," I shot back, wincing as the movement sent a wave of pain through my body. Abby stood up, placing herself between us. "Stop it, both of you. This isn't helping anyone." Michael's gaze softened as he looked at our daughter. "Abby, honey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "I know, Dad," she said, her voice steady. "But Mom needs peace right now. You should go." For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But then his face hardened again. "Fine," he spat. "But this isn't over, Jennifer. You can't keep me out of your life or Abby's." As he stormed out, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. Abby turned back to me, her eyes filled with a maturity no 17-year-old should have to bear. "Mom," she said softly, "I really think I should go back, just for a while." I wanted to argue, to beg her to stay, but I could see the determination in her eyes. She was so much stronger than I had been at her age. "Okay," I whispered, my voice heartbreaking, "but promise me you'll be careful. Your father. He's not the man we thought he was." Abby nodded, squeezing my hand. "I know, but someone needs to keep an eye on things, and you need to focus on getting better." As she left to make arrangements, I felt a strange mix of pride and despair. My daughter was stepping up in ways I never could have imagined, but the thought of facing this battle without her by my side terrified me. Later that night, as I lay in my empty apartment, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "How are you holding up? Any news on the divorce proceedings?" I stared at the message, a plan forming in my mind. If Michael thought he could waltz back into our lives and take control, he had another thing coming. And Helen? Well, she was about to learn that this doormat had teeth. With shaking hands, I typed out a response. "I'm ready to fight. Let's go for full custody and maximum alimony. It's time to show them what I'm made of." As I hit send, I felt a surge of determination. Cancer might be ravaging my body, but it hadn't touched my spirit. Michael and Helen had no idea what was coming their way. I closed my eyes, picturing Abby's face. Everything I was about to do, I was doing for her, and for the woman I was finally becoming, strong, resilient, and unstoppable. The battle was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. But for the first time in years, I felt ready to face whatever came my way. Michael, Helen, Cancer Dot, they were all going down. "You ready for this?" Daniel asked, adjusting his tie as he appeared behind me. I nodded, a grim smile playing on my lips. More than ready. It's time Michael learned that actions have consequences. Today was the day. After a year of treatments, recovery, and meticulous planning, we were finally filing for divorce and alimony. Michael had no idea what was coming. As we drove to the courthouse, my phone buzzed. A text from Abby. "Good luck, Mom. I believe in you." My heart swelled. This past year hadn't been easy on either of us, but Abby had been my rock, my reason to keep fighting. Even living under Michael and Helen's roof, she'd managed to feed me information, helping build our case. The courthouse loomed before us, imposing and cold. As we climbed the steps, I spotted a familiar figure waiting at the top. Olivia. I gasped, recognizing Michael's mistress. She approached us, wringing her hands nervously. "Jennifer, I need to talk to you." Daniel stepped forward protectively, but I held up a hand. "It's okay." "What is it, Olivia?" Her eyes darted around before settling on mine. "He's been lying to everyone." The affair. It wasn't just me. There were others. And the company. He's been embezzling funds for years. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. What? How do you know this? Olivia pulled out a USB drive. I have proof. Emails, bank statements, everything. I can't be part of this anymore. As she pressed the drive into my hand, the courthouse doors burst open. Michael stormed out, his face contorted with rage. "You backstabbing, ___," he roared, lunging towards Olivia. Daniel stepped between them, his voice cold. "That's enough, Michael. You're only making this worse for yourself." Michael's gaze snapped to me, his eyes narrowing. "And you? You think you can take everything from me? You're nothing without me, Jennifer. Nothing." I felt a familiar fear creeping up my spine, but I squashed it down. I was not that woman anymore. "No, Michael," I said, my voice steady. "You're the one who's nothing. A cheater, a liar, and now a thief. You've taken enough from me. Now it's my turn." His face paled as he noticed the USB drive in my hand. What is that?" I smiled, a predator sensing weakness in its prey. "Oh, just a little insurance policy. Shall we go inside and discuss the terms of our divorce?" As we entered the courthouse, I felt a surge of power. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for, fighting for. But life, as I'd learned, rarely goes according to plan. As we reached the courtroom, a commotion erupted down the hall. Abby came running towards us, her face streaked with tears. "Mom," she cried, "it's Grandma Helen. She had a stroke. They're taking her to the hospital now." I froze, conflicting emotions warring inside me. Helen had been a thorn in my side for years, but she was still Abby's grandmother. Michael turned to me, his earlier bravado gone. "Jennifer, please. We need to go to the hospital. We can deal with this later." I looked at Daniel, then at the courtroom doors. Everything I'd fought for was within reach, but at what cost? Abby's pleading eyes met mine, and I knew what I had to do. "Okay," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Let's go." As we rushed out of the courthouse, my mind raced. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. But for now, family came first, even if that family was complicated and broken. I clutched the USB drive in my pocket, a reminder that justice could wait. For now, we had a different battle to face. And as we sped towards the hospital, I realized that sometimes the path to revenge takes unexpected turns. But I was ready for whatever came next. After all, I'd already survived the impossible. What was one more challenge? The hospital waiting room felt like a pressure cooker, tension thick enough to cut with a scalpel. I sat rigidly, the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket, while Michael paced back and forth like a caged animal. Abby, caught between us, looked lost and afraid. Mrs. Thompson, a doctor, appeared, his face grave. "Your mother-in-law is stable, but she's asking for you." I blinked in surprise. "Me?" Michael's head snapped up. "Why would she want to see you?" Ignoring him, I followed the doctor to Helen's room. She lay there, looking small and frail, a far cry from the intimidating woman I'd known for years. "Jennifer," she croaked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to tell you something." I approached cautiously. "What is it, Helen?" Her eyes, clouded with pain and medication, fixed on mine. "I'm sorry for everything. The way I treated you, it wasn't right." The words hit me like a physical blow. After years of snide comments and passive-aggressive jabs, this was the last thing I'd expected. "I knew," she continued, her voice growing weaker. "I knew about Michael's affairs, all of them. I encouraged him. Thought it would keep him from leaving, like his father did." My mind reeled. All those years of feeling inadequate, of thinking I wasn't good enough. It had all been orchestrated. Frustrated by the woman lying before me, I asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" My voice shook. Helen's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was wrong. You deserved better. Both of you did." As if on cue, Michael burst into the room, his face a mask of concern. "Mom, what's going on?" Helen's gaze shifted to her son, hardening slightly. "William, it's time to face the consequences of your actions. Of our actions." Michael's face paled. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I stood up, feeling a strange mix of vindication and sorrow. "Your mother knows everything, Michael." "And so do I." His eyes darted between us, panic setting in. "Jennifer, please. We can work this out. I'll do anything, just don't ruin us." The irony of his words wasn't lost on me. How many times had I begged him for understanding, for compassion? And now here he was, pleading for mercy. "It's too late for that," I said, my voice steady. "You made your choices. Now it's time to live with them." As if summoned by my words, Daniel appeared in the doorway, flanked by two stern-looking men in suits. "Jennifer," he said, his voice tight, "the FBI is here. They want to talk to Michael about the embezzlement charges." The room erupted into chaos. Michael lunged towards me, his face contorted with rage. "You, ___, you set me up." Before he could reach me, one of the agents intercepted him, pinning his arms behind his back. "William Thompson, you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud," the agent recited as Michael thrashed and cursed. As they led him away, I turned back to Helen. Her eyes were closed, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. "I'm so sorry," she whispered again. I stood there, overwhelmed by the tumult of emotions. Anger, relief, sadness, and a strange sense of emptiness, all wed within me. Abby appeared at my side, her hand slipping into mine. "Mom, what happens now?" I looked at my daughter, then at Helen, and finally at the empty doorway where Michael had been dragged away. The life I'd known for so long was crumbling around me, but from the ashes I could see the faint glimmer of a new beginning. "Now," I said, squeezing Abby's hand, "we start over together." As we left the hospital room, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The revenge I'd sought for so long was finally mine, but it felt hollow somehow. "Mom," Abby's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Are you okay?" I looked at my daughter, wise beyond her years, and felt a surge of love and pride. "I'm not sure, honey." "It's a lot to process." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "You know, it's okay if you're not happy about this. Dad, he did terrible things, but he's still my father. And Grandma Helen, she's still family." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. In my quest for justice, had I lost sight of what really mattered? As if sensing my turmoil, Abby squeezed my hand. "But we're going to be okay, right? We have each other." In that moment, looking at my daughter's hopeful face, I realized something profound. The true victory wasn't in the money or the legal battle. It was in the strength we'd found together, in the bonds we'd forged through adversity. "Yes, sweetheart," I said, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "We're going to be more than okay." Weeks later, as we settled into our new home, I received a letter from Helen. Her handwriting was shaky, but her words were clear. "Jennifer, I know I can never make up for the pain I've caused you, but I want you to know that I'm proud of the woman you've become. Take care of Abby, and please, if you can find it in your heart, allow me to be a part of your lives." I read the letter twice, tears blurring my vision. The anger I'd harbored for so long began to be replaced by a tentative hope for reconciliation. That evening, as Abby and I sat on our new porch, watching the sunset, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. "Mom," Abby said, her voice soft, "do you think we could visit Grandma Helen sometime?" I looked at my daughter, marveling at her capacity for forgiveness. "You know what? I think that's a wonderful idea." As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky, I realized that true strength isn't found in revenge or retribution. It's found in the ability to forgive, to heal, and to move forward. Our story wasn't over, far from it. But as I sat there with Abby, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities, and for the first time in years, I was excited to see what it held.